this lesson, we're going to come in here and build a separate hip rig. This rig is going to allow us some greater flexibility in the hip region so the character can move a little bit more freely. It also, if you're used to, we'll just parent this together as an example. If you're used to working with rigs that are connected like this, there's a lot of counterkeying that happens with this type of a rig, so we're going to avoid that with this hip rig that we're going to build. So let's go ahead and get started with that in our side view. Let's come in here and activate our joint tool. And I'm going to place it right about here where we would see the hip rotation. And then just drop down another bone right here, just showing the direction that this is going. It's going in the reverse of our spine. Okay, so we've got it there in the center. And now I'm going to shift select the root of the spine, parent those, that's P on the keyboard, and we'll do the same. Let me just template this so we can see it a little bit better. I'm going to select the thigh bone, that hip bone that we need to rename still. We're going to parent that one over and do the same for the right thigh. Parent that. Let's go ahead and rename this joint. So it's going to be bound hip A. And we'll go ahead and copy that. And we'll just name this end bone here that's not going to be bound. So BE and hip underscore B. Okay, so it's a pretty simple rig here, but it does actually allow us quite a bit more freedom. So if I were to come out here, show you what it does here, you can see our knees moving. So that's much nicer than just connecting the hips directly, connecting the thighs directly to the spine. This will give us much more freedom in animating. But as you can see, it's pretty difficult to access. It's right there in the center of our character, so we are going to have to build a control for that. So let's do that next. Let's come into our front view. And I think with this one, let's go ahead and just draw one out here using a CV curve tool. Open up the option box, reset the tool, and we want to make this linear. Go ahead and close that down. And I'm going to hold down X key to snap it to the grid. So there's the first one. So I'm just going to draw a box around here and then come across to the other side. Do the same thing and hit enter. So there we have it. Let's go ahead and center our pivot on that now. Okay, let's come back to our perspective view. And we're going to scale it down first of all. It's a little large. We don't need it quite that big. Something like that. And we can even just kind of scale it out a little bit like this so it's easier to grab. I don't want it intersecting my character. You can edit the actual points here as well if you want to kind of keep that a little bit more square. All right. And just selecting that, we want to snap it to that hip bone right there. So I'm going to hold down the V key and we're going to snap it right into the center of that joint. Okay. And then if you want to move it down, if it's sitting up a little bit too high, you can always just access the control points on here and move it down. That's not going to affect where it's rotating from. Okay. And let's go ahead and color code that. Control A to open up the option box. Object display. Drawing overrides. Enable overrides. And we can select a color for that. Let's go ahead and select red. Okay. And there it is. All right, so let's go ahead and freeze the transformations on it. Let's give it a name. Hip control. All right. And now we need to orient constrain that to that hip bone right there. I just shift selected that, and under constrain, orient constrain, let's open up the option box. We want to make sure that maintain offset is selected. and apply. Go ahead and close that. So now when we select this, we can see our hips moving how we would expect them to. All right. And let's go ahead and clean up our transformations over here. We're not going to need translate X, Y, and Z. Let's go ahead and lock and hide those, as well as scale X, Y, Z and visibility. Turn those off as well. So that just leaves us with our hip control. Okay, so we've got that in place now. And in the next lesson, we're going to start setting up controls for the remainder of the back and continue working our way up the body, the arms, and to the head. And we'll do that in the next lesson.